Hello, everybody. Let's see here. Hello, everybody. You're working now? All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the very first episode of The Line in the Sand. Please bear with me as I am not a technical genius, but my goal is to put actual factual information out there into the progressive YouTube space. So this is the first episode. Thank you so much for coming along. If you're giving this video a check, checking this video out, you like what you see, please share, like, subscribe. That's always a great thing. Again, my first show, so I'm kind of nervous, but I've been wanting to do this. Again, so my name is Mims, and this show is called The Line in the Sand. Why it's called that is because I just thought it would be a very poetic and beautiful name, because lately in our society there are no lines in the sand, right? We are seeing human rights being trampled. We are seeing the economy being trampled, being obliterated by corporations. We are seeing people across the board living in conditions that they've never have had to live in before. We are seeing people going on massive strikes because they are fighting for wages that they should be getting, right? Everybody should have a good quality of life. If you work a 40-hour-a-week job, you work full-time, you should not have to work 2-3 full-time jobs just to keep the water running, just to keep the lights on, just to keep a loaf of bread, right, in the fridge or in the bread box, wherever folks keep their bread. I'm from Vermont, so that explains my accent a little bit. So today, I just want to quickly run through some economic factors with you regarding the pandemic. Because lately, I'm sure many of you have seen or have heard, oh, the economy is doing wonderful. The jobs are growing. Right now, it's a workers' market. Go get your job. Get off unemployment. Go get a job. It's very competitive right now. You can get a job. Anybody can get a job. You get a job. You get a job. You get a job. It's like Oprah, right? You get a car. You get a car. But what the media is not reporting, unfortunately, excuse me, is that these jobs, a lot of these jobs are minimum wage jobs. These are low wage jobs, and I'm not knocking anybody for hospitality. Most of my career has been working as either a cook in a kitchen or a waiter in a restaurant. All right, so, and there have been times where, I make good money as a server, right? But those nights were far and few in between, and it wasn't like it was a stable lifestyle. Anyone that can tell you who has worked as a waiter in a restaurant, unless it's a 5-star restaurant, it's bustling every night of the week, anybody that can tell you that has worked as a server at any corporate restaurant or any mom and pop restaurant, it's either feast or famine most of the time. And a lot of times, servers are just barely getting by. So these jobs that are being reported as the economy is coming back after the pandemic, unfortunately, it's not the kind of jobs that, we would like to see people getting back into. For example, folks with master's degrees getting high-level jobs, good-paying jobs. Folks with years of experience getting high-level, good-paying jobs. Factory workers finally getting the raise they deserve. Stuff like that. The jobs that have been reported, yes, while there is job growth in the hospitality sector, the service sector, and even in some manufacturing sector, part of the manufacturing sector, that's pretty much it, right? So the jobs growing, the economy booming, this whole narrative that the mainstream media is pitching is not what it all seems to be. So really quickly here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over to some video from Status Quo News, statusquo.com. I recommend joining them, supporting them. Jordan Sheridan and Jen over there, they do some wonderful reporting that independent media or corporate media will not do, that only independent media will do. I'm going to be using this video for part of my video narration today. So let's get into that right now. It's an interview between Jordan Chariton and Professor Richard Wolff. He's Harvard professor. He's an economics professor, and basically Richard Wolff tears the assessment of the current state of the U.S. economy down a few pegs, which is well deserved considering what the truth of the matter really is. People are being told, oh, everything is going great. Nope, you don't need any more stimulus checks. The Delta variant, if you're vaccinated, you'll get a little sick. Those other, vaccinations have had problems in the past with metal shards being found in them. No big deal. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. Now, I am not saying, I realize what my comments just said there. I am not saying do not get vaccinated. What I am saying is it's okay to ask questions. And I believe vaccinations work. Believe me. It has been a long time since we have had diphtheria or smallpox or measles kill vast majorities of the population. About 100 years ago, there's a staggering statistic about children who, one out of so many children didn't make it to the age of 10. I think it was maybe 50% of children didn't make it to the age of 10 before inoculations, just because there wasn't proper vaccine and, the medical care had not advanced as far as we've gotten. Anyways, getting back on track, I am pro-vaccine, but I am also pro-peer review. I am also pro FDA regulations. Those regulations are in place for a reason. And I am pro having a conversation. The conversations that should be continue to be have in the medical community regarding these vaccinations. They came along really quick. There's a lot of concern out there. And of course, Moderna, I believe it's the Moderna vaccine that got the okay, or is it the Pfizer? It's one of those two that they're hoping that with the FDA approval, that will quell some of the nerves of folks. But there's still folks that are very nervous and are very untrusting of the government. And that kind of institutional distrust, it's been building up for over 100 years. Hundreds of years, in some cases, for marginalized communities, such as Black American communities, such as the Hispanic community. We really have issues in this country when it comes to trust with the government. So, there's only so much that the government can do at this time, but I know it's doing everything in its power to build trust. And go out there and, have that conversation with your doctor about getting vaccinated. I think that's a great conversation to have. Again, vaccines work. I have all my vaccines. I'm getting my COVID-19 vaccine on Tuesday, as far as I know. So, so I'll be reporting on that too. So, anyways, let's kick this thing into gear. Let's see the interview here, part of the interview between Jordan Chariton and Professor Richard Wolff regarding the current state of the United States economy. Let's see here.
I wanted to have you. I saw you with Chris Hedges on Brianna's podcast. And I wanted to have you because obviously, most of the focus has been on the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and, the neocons are, huffing and puffing at this. Obviously, there's, unfortunately, an attack on the airport today. And so far, 12 American soldiers have died from this. But in all of this, there seems to be this continual narrative that everything's groovy, everything's getting back to normal. The jobs are coming back. Without, Cori Bush and certain progressives, it was just assumed that, oh no, we don't need this moratorium anymore for evictions. But I look at the numbers and I don't know what they're talking about. I look at the numbers and I have seen most of the jobs coming back seem to be, retail, hospitality, not exactly great living wage jobs. I see in the coming weeks on September 6th, federal unemployment expansion is set to end. that extra $300. Some states have already ended it, but a lot of states didn't. And I also see, not to trigger, the people who have opinions on COVID, I also see cases surging all over the country in certain states, pediatric hospital beds full with children. So I'd like to ask you, is this the right time to be, discontinuing unemployment or not adding things as the economy is so vulnerable?
Yeah, let me respond by putting it a little bit in context. To assess an economy, in other words, to give some sort of summary judgment about whether an economy is doing well or poorly, getting better, deteriorating, or however you would like to characterize an overall summary, it's a little bit like going, if you allow me a metaphor, going to the doctor and making that standard joke, "Doc, how am I doing?" And hoping that the doc, after some effort, can give you a sense of how you're doing. Now, suppose the doctor stuck a thermometer in your mouth, read off the temperature of your body, and said, "Oh, 98.6, fine, you're good. Bye-bye, see you in 3 months, or 6 months, or next year." Hopefully, you would understand that you need a new doctor, because that's not adequate. You really need a doctor to look at all, or at least many, of the important indices of how you're doing. And a good doctor will do that. He'll check you out all over, do some blood tests, look at your urine, all the usual things that people who go to doctors are aware constitute an examination. But suppose the doctor wasn't a doctor. Suppose the doctor was in the business of selling you aspirins. You might then understand, you wouldn't like it, if he did the kind of summary thing that would allow him to say, "And therefore you need to take more aspirins." When you ask a political leader, especially one in office, how the economy is doing, it's a little bit like the aspirin story. This politician knows that he or she is going to be held accountable, because that's what Americans do. They hold politicians accountable. They shouldn't. It's a mistake, but they do. And therefore, the politician is in a very difficult position. The reality is politicians don't control the economy. They never did. At best, they can nudge it a little more this way, a little that way. But believe me, whatever they do, afterwards, when the camera isn't rolling, they cross their fingers and pray and hope that what they said they were doing for the following reason will actually come to pass. And you know something?
All right, there we go. All right, sorry about that, folks. If there was some sound issues in the beginning. Again, my first broadcast, so please, of course, I'm always open to suggestions and, of course, review and scrutiny of how I can do things better. But, of course, what we see right there with Professor Wolf in his interview with Jordan Sheridan, he was suggesting, hey, the U.S. economy right now, if you ask any politician, of course, because they're in office, they're going to say, oh, it's absolutely wonderful. It's great. Of course, though, you go to people who are, across America, people are experiencing the economy in different ways. The folks who are, working right now and who are working for $11, $12 an hour, and who are, the rent moratorium is coming up. And if they're behind in their rent and they're making $11, $12 an hour, how are they supposed to catch up on 5-6 months of rent if there's no support there, or they don't know where to get the support? So, again, there's just more problems. There's more kind of empty spaces, if you will, in the question about how the economy is truly doing. Just to give you a sense, I did, let's see here. I did go to a couple of websites to see some websites with some really good observations here. And it looks like, let's see what this one is. Right, this one is from the Brookings.edu. So Brookings Institute. And, as we scroll down here, it says low unemployment isn't worth much if the jobs barely pay. So this is going over the unemployment factor right here. The article goes on to say, pardon me there, skipped a little bit ahead. So each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases its Employment Situation Report, better known as the Jobs Report, to outline the latest state of the nation's economy, and with it of late have been plenty of positive headlines, with unemployment hovering around 3.5%. Now, a decade of job growth and recent upticks in wages. The report numbers have mostly been good news, but those numbers don't tell the whole story. Are those jobs any good? How much do they pay? Do workers make enough to live on? Here's the story. Here the story is less rosy. In a recent analysis, we found that 53 million workers ages 18 to 64, or 44% of all workers, earn barely enough to live on. Their median earnings are $10.22 an hour and about $18,000 per year. These low-wage workers are concentrated in a relatively small number of occupations, including retail sales, cooks, food and beverage servers, janitors, housekeepers, personal care and service workers such as child care workers, and patient care assistants, and various administrative positions. Just how concerning are these figures? Well, some will say that not all low-wage workers are in dire economic straits or reliant on their earnings to support themselves. And that's true, but as the following data points show, it would be a mistake to assume that most low-wage workers are young people just getting started, or students or secondary earners, or otherwise financially secure. Two-thirds, 64% of low-wage workers are in their prime working years of 25 to 54 years of age. More than half, 57%, work full-time year-round, the customary schedule for employment intended to provide financial security. All right. About 51% are primary earners or contribute substantially to family living expenses. 37% have children. Of this group, 23% live below the federal poverty line. So almost a third of families with children who have full-time workers live below the federal poverty line. And the federal poverty line is a joke, if you ask me. It's a freaking joke. And then, of course, right here, less than half, 45% of low-wage workers age 18 to 24 are in school or already have a college degree. Again, less than half of low-wage workers 18 to 24 are in school or already have a college degree. These statistics tell an important story. Millions of hardworking American adults struggle to eke out a living and support their families on very low wages. What should be done? Some suggest that the education and quote unquote upskilling is the answer, arguing that if these workers got more education and increased their skills, they would move up to higher paying jobs. That is partially true. The majority of low-wage workers, or 77%, have less than a college degree, and we would never bet against education increasing. But here's the thing, folks, okay? So they're going on here about education. I like the statistics they were giving in regards to the breakdown of the people who are making the low wages, all right? But saying, hey, if we get more people in college, if we get more people to get a degree, they'll get higher level jobs. Okay? That's not necessarily true. As an example, I have a master's degree. All right? I have untold student debt. When I told my dad what my student debt was, he said, and I quote, "Holy shit, you're going to die with that debt." And yeah, pretty much. Unless somehow I make $1 million a year, or or more than that, or somehow, hit the lottery, chances are the student debt to get the, associate's degree I have, the bachelor's degree I have, the master's degree in business administration, I'm going to die with that debt. The only job I have ever had in my life that paid well above minimum wage and had me above the federal poverty level was when I was an insurance agent for 2.5 years. I like selling insurance, it's all right, but again, corporate America doesn't really make sales jobs easy to maintain or sustain, especially if you're someone who has other ambitions, or you're someone who wants to work their way up the ladder, or you've got a lot of other areas you want to check out as far as career opportunities go. When I was a kid, fresh out of high school, I was going to major in theater and dance. And as time went on and I got broken down, I realized, well, that's not very sustainable. And so as the years went on, my mind just ended up going in a more pragmatic direction. But even with a master's degree in business administration, if I say, hey, I have a master's degree, but the only office job I've ever held has been an insurance agent, okay, but I'm looking for an administrative assistant position, I don't get a call back. I don't get a call back about, hey, let's interview you for this. Because a lot of the folks that are looking for people for the, positions where folks have higher education, they're also looking for experience, okay? So how is someone supposed to gain access or be interviewed for a position if they have the education and they have the debt that goes with that education, but they don't have the years of experience the employer is suggesting? Well, then others will say, well, do an internship. So is someone supposed to work for free for 2 to 3 years? Be homeless, work for free? And then in the end, it'll all be worth it because, hey, at least now I'll get an interview for an administrative assistant position? That's bullshit. All right. So one more article here I just wanted to cover with y'all real quickly here tonight. And again, I thank you for your time. So this job right here has a less than enthusiastic view. The U.S. is facing a dollar collapse by the end of 2021 and over 50% chance of a double dip recession, economist Stephen Roche says. So basically, the politicians are all gaga, rah, rah, pandemic is over, my God, people are getting jobs, get out there and get a job. Joe Biden's even's like, get out there and get jobs, kids. That was a really horrible impression of Joe Biden, but you get where I'm coming from. We're not paying you to sit at home. And that's for people who are getting unemployment. And hello, knock, knock, Joe Biden. Pandemic unemployment assistance ends. What's today? The 3rd, 4th? Today? Yeah. It ends today. So, yeah. So basically, folks who are on unemployment, it's not like they're going to be living, a life of luxury and comfort if they have any unemployment left. So, let's see here. So I'm going to get in this article a little bit real quick. The U.S. dollar could collapse by the end of 2021, and the economy can expect a more than 50% chance of a double-dip recession, Stephen Roche told CNBC on Wednesday. The U.S. has seen economic output rise briefly and then fall in 8 of the past 11 business cycles recovery, Roche said. Grim second quarter data cannot be dismissed, he said, pointing out that the current account deficit in the United States, which is the broadest measure of our international imbalance with the rest of the world, suffered a record deterioration. Roche last predicted a crash in the dollar index in June when it was trading at about 96. He said at the time that it would allow collapse 35% against other major currencies within the next year or two. The seemingly crazed idea that the US dollar will collapse against other major currencies in the post-pandemic global economy is not so crazy anymore, the economist Stephen Roche told CNBC's Trading Nation on Wednesday. Roche, a former chairman of Morgan Stanley Asia, and also said he sees a more than 50% probability of a double-dip recession in the United States. He based that prediction on historical evidence, saying that in 8 of the past 11 business cycle recoveries, economic output has risen briefly and then fallen. It's certainly something that happens more often than not, he said. So what he's basically saying here is our economy is very unstable. So yeah, there might be a slight uptick, but then boom, back down again. So, I mean, this guy knows his shit. Roche last predicted a dollar crash in June, saying it would collapse 35% against other major currencies within the next couple of years. At the time, the dollar index traded about 96. On Thursday, the index traded at about 94.41. He said on Wednesday that he expected the collapse to happen by the end of 2021, but he did not say by how much. We've gotten data that's confirmed both the savings and current account dynamic in a more than dramatic fashion than I was looking for, he said. So basically, he's explaining his outlook. By explaining this outlook, he said, look, here's the second quarter. Second quarter being, April, May, and June, right? Second quarter, right? Yeah. January, February, March, April, May, June. So April, May, and June, that's the second quarter of 2021. And he said, the economy's not doing that hot. And you guys are ready to just tear away all the security blankets that you've been giving people during the pandemic recovery. The current account deficit in the United States, which is the broadest measure of our international imbalance with the rest of the world, suffered a record deterioration. Yeah, he's going over the second quarter again. Lingering vulnerability in the aftermath of the initial decline are two factors driving the dollar's ominous failure, he said. Lacking in savings and wanting to grow, we run the current account deficits to borrow surplus savings, and that always pushes the currencies lower, Roche said. And the dollar is not immune to that time-honored adjustment. Additionally, Roche said new COVID-19 infections and higher mortality rates must be part of assessing the risk of an aftershock. As we head into flu season, with the new infection rates moving back up again, with mortality unacceptably high, the risk of an aftershock is not something you can dismiss, he said. That's a tough combination, and I think the record of history suggests that this is not a time unlike what the frothy markets are doing to bet that this is different. So I just butchered that, but basically he's saying the markets are saying everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, there's going to be this little spike here with the COVID variant, the Delta variant, but everything will go back to normal. People will continue getting jobs. The economy will go on. Well, he's not that positive on that outlook, and this comes from Business Insider News. And so, yeah, that's that, right? Again, grim ass predictions, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want our economy to just collapse. I don't want our economy to just tank, and then the government to be, oh my God, what we do? I'm giving away some information here, but I'm 34 years old. So when I believe I was 22, 23, the recession of 2008 happened. And that sucked. I lost my job as a dishwasher. I was a dishwasher and prep cook at a Marriott, and I lost my job. My job was eliminated. I got unemployment, and George W., he was still, president for like 5 more months at that time. The 2008 election of Barack Obama for hope and change was right around the corner. And George W. was like, hey, let's do something good for the American people because, kids, they learn things. And so basically George W. Bush said, let's give them all an extra $200. Sound good? Fuck it, I'm on my way out. So, yeah, so they literally, that was literally the stimulus for the Great Recession, was a $200 check. But also, again, if we put everything else into perspective, the unemployment support programs that they had at that time of the Great Recession lasted until through, I believe it was 2012. So from 2009 to 2012, we had, extra unemployment benefits. We had extended unemployment benefits. And that was with the Great Recession. That was without a pandemic. That's when just a lot of people lost their houses. And scumbags like Steven Mnuchin came in and made a big buck. Steven Mnuchin, the former Treasury Secretary. It's horrific to think that we're about to turn a corner. Things are going to get better. But wait, the worst is yet to come. It's horrible to think that, especially when we got global warming events happening all over the place, massive flooding, historic flooding in places that have never had floods like the floods we've seen before, wildfires. California is practically a fucking living torch. We're just seeing so much happen right now within our world due to climate change, and we're also seeing strife due to the pandemic, which is on the downward decline again. Vaccinations are a great benefit, and they are a great public service. Again, that's a conversation between you and your doctor. I know folks are scared. There is still a lot of uncertainty. Hell, I'm scared. There's still a lot of uncertainty. What the hell am I going to do, with my master's degree and my huge amount of student debt? When the student debt relief ends on January 31st, what the hell am I going to do? So, believe me, we're all in the same boat. But the best thing we can do at this time is support each other. And also, there is a direct line to Congress. There is a direct line to everybody's congressperson. Everybody has 2 U.S. senators. If you're in the United States of America, light those switchboards up, light Twitter up, light Facebook up, light YouTube up. Start putting together protests, start putting together peaceful social movements to make sure that if something were to happen near the end of this year to the US dollar, that there is a plan for it. And they're not going to leave us hanging. And for those of you who live in Canada, in Switzerland, our brothers and sisters all around the world who have representative governments, use what your